Well, good morning, everyone. As your closing speaker, it's an awesome privilege and responsibility to help you to apply the incredible knowledge that you learned here at WERC 2014. And so, in thinking of that, as Ken was introducing me to the stage, I thought, well, how can I best connect with this audience and really earn the right to encourage you to take action? Obviously, I'd probably have to take some action myself. And so I want you to imagine something. What if when Ken introduced me, instead of just stepping up to the stage and beginning to speak with you, what if I started with action, with implementation, right? So maybe I came up these stairs with a little bit of speed, a little bit of energy, which you may have seen, motivational speakers running to the stage before. Frankly, it's kind of cheesy. But here's where it would get interesting. Right about the time I got behind the lectern, I would throw my body into a round-off, all right? And if you don't know, it's like a cartwheel with your feet together. Then I would launch myself backwards from my feet to my hands, and then back to my feet. And then I'd come front and center and throw myself straight up into a tucked backward somersault, landing, ready to begin. Yeah? I mean, what do you think? That would be good, wouldn't it? Could you imagine the energy in this room? You'd be so much more awake, more interested, more curious about what I would say and what I would do next. And I'm willing to bet that because I described it for you in detail, you can already see it happening, right? Indulge me with a show of hands. How many of you can picture me pulling this off? Look around the room. That's nearly all of you, which is awesome. It also means we don't have to do it. So moving on. You have the image, you have the vision. That's enough, right? Absolutely not. No, you know what? Because success in life, success in business, success in logistic planning, in inventory management, it's not about your knowledge. Of course, that's the critical piece in terms of learning what is necessary, but it's about implementation. That's where the learning really happens. That's where we will reap the benefits of this experience. And so I'm starting over, and this will either be a sensational new start or a spectacular finish, Either way, it's going to be memorable. And one thing's for sure, I can't do it alone. I need a team. I need to coordinate all of you in the same way that this awesome association provides you resources to succeed and to be more effective at your jobs. I want to know what it feels like when we're all on the same page, all right? So hold your hands out about this far apart. And then as one voice together, we're going to clap our hands one time. Ready? Go! That was awesome. You are obviously good at your jobs, all right? Very, very on the money. Now, don't you wish your own ideas were adopted so easily, so effortlessly? No, it takes repetition and listening and adjustments along the way. And so that's what we're going to do in a moment. We're going to get it going louder, stronger, and faster. And when we build that energy, we'll see what happens. But one thing's for sure, for me right now, at this moment, there's no turning back, right? Not if I want your respect. And there's a message there. If you're serious about a transformation, or about growing from this moment into your future, you need to make the promise. It's not just a personal commitment. You need to express your commitment. Because once you do, once you voice your intentions to the people that you respect, the people you work with, the people you live with, the people you care about, your accountability partners, your action planners, right? Then you'll find that new level of commitment. And also, you'll immediately begin to identify new resources around you. And maybe old resources that you can apply in new ways. And while we all need to stretch to go into this future success, ultimately, it's about taking action, following through. Are we ready? Yeah. All right, hands out. Deep breath. Mainly that's for me, but thank you. Let's go. All right, I feel it. Ladies and gentlemen of WERC, if you will, one more time, help me welcome Dan Thurmon. Ho! Yes! Are we ready? Are we ready? Yeah! Can you feel a difference? How many of you are relieved? Let's be honest. I know, because you're going to have some fun, and you're right. But am I suggesting that you get so pumped up and inspired by this experience in Chicago that you return to your teams with a whole new level of enthusiasm and action? and you start tumbling through the facilities and warehouses to inspire everyone. Don't do that. No, what I'm saying is, it's about action, right? And that's a great illustration because it does require you to demonstrate some commitment and flexibility as you take your stage every single day. To maybe launch yourself into the uncertainty when you can't exactly see where you're going, right? And ultimately to follow through because everyone's watching you. You lead the charge. And to be successful, to achieve some kind of transformation, it's not about doing one big, bold stunt. It's about the little things that you do consistently, that you improve over time, that make enormous differences. In fact, think no further than the incredible story of Harry Lind. Harry Lind. You probably don't know the story. Harry was born in 1879. He grew up in a very poor family in Jamestown, New York. So when he was 12 years old, he didn't go to school like most kids his age. He went to work every day. And he worked in a furniture factory. He thought this would be his career for life because he got this job and he was learning this new trade and he was getting pretty good. But one day when he was 12 and he just boarded that freight elevator that would take him down to the floor, just as it started to move, the cable that held it just simply snapped and it fell. It literally free fell to the bottom and crashed. And then because there was no ceiling, there was nothing to stop that cable, that heavy piece of steel, which struck him unconscious and near death and partially paralyzed. He could barely move his hands. The doctors told him, look, you're not going to recover from this, not completely. But they gave him an action, a tool, something that he could implement, right, in order to improve himself. And for Harry Lind, the tool looked like this. It was a wooden club. These are called Indian clubs. They were used for exercise, for therapy in the day. And the doctor told him, look, I just want you to hold it. Just hold it in your hand. He couldn't. He couldn't develop the strength. He didn't have the strength to hold it just then. But with practice, he developed the strength. And that was his first achievement, is just to hold it. Just as when we're facing uncertainty, complexity, new challenges, new logistical challenges, transportation hurdles and obstacles that you have no idea how you're going to solve them. The first challenge is just to be able to get a grip, right? Just to be able to understand the situation, your circumstances, your life, your issues personally, professionally, as they are. Not making it better, not making it worse. Because only from that moment can you begin to take action. And the doctor said, look, just make a small circle, and if you do this with both hands, over time, maybe increase the range of that circle, like a bigger circle. And it's going to hurt, but stretch through it, do it anyway. Maybe you'll be able to bend your elbows, possibly use your shoulders, and it's up to you. So he accepted the challenge and the tool, and he worked with it every day until he was tired, until he was sore, until he was frustrated. And he'd have to put it down just to rest and regroup so that the next day he could pick it right back up again. Well, not only did Harry Lind regain the use of his arms, he went on to become one of vaudeville's greatest. What do you think? His devotion to juggling was a return on the club and the gift that it brought him and a change in his life. And he wanted to share that with his audiences, but also with his fellow jugglers. He started an association, very, very much like WERC. Instead of that acronym, however, it was called the IJA, the International Jugglers Association, which at the time of its inception was 8 guys hanging out in New York with a bold vision of what it would mean if they could bring together like-minded professionals, elevate the standard for excellence, provide tools and resources and competitions and challenges and environments and forums for them to get together and to really help one another connect. And obviously, I believe that Harry's chosen profession, professional juggling, is exactly what you do every day. Would you agree with that? Oh, yeah. As logisticians, as supply chain managers, as you manage inventory, as you look at the complexity of the world that you are charged to handle. It's a 24-hour juggling act. In fact, how about a visual aid? Because, my friends, each of you begin, I know, with a handful of tasks, of projects, and responsibilities, and products, and people, and technology that you're determined to keep in the air. And usually you have it planned out so perfectly. You've put in your time, your thought, your effort, your education. You've worked with your fellow work members, and you understand the challenge. And yet you plan your day, but when you launch into a day, when you take action, you find things start happening in real time. And there's this state of flow and change, right? Everything's constantly in motion that surrounds you and all of your efforts. Some of you have a more straightforward, matter-of-fact approach to the way you do things. Every day you're going to knock it out. You're going to get it done. Yes. Others tend to be, thanks. Others of you tend to be far more creative. It's like, yes, right? Oh, we all have different styles, different approaches, different resources, but the challenge is the same, isn't it? To manage the complexity and the chaos, to keep everything in motion and on target, to take your throws to higher and even higher levels, to make all the catches, and to make it look easy. Oh, thanks. Thank you, I appreciate that. To make it look easy, right? Because when you make it look easy, you create that effortless experience for your customers, for your team members. Things simply just seem to happen at the right time, and business can continue unimpeded. Now, I appreciate that little recognition there, all of you clapping. That's great. I'm kind of an odd job. I get a lot of that. I'm very fortunate because people respond to what they see on stage. In fact, when you think about it, when Ken introduced me, right, at the end of his introduction, he said, "Help me welcome Dan Thurmon." You clapped, and I came up here. Now, think about that. I got a round of applause simply for showing up. Imagine if your life worked that way, right? If every day you showed up at your facility and you were greeted by a spontaneous round of applause. It's like, well, yes, you came back again. Because after last week, we just weren't so sure. See, I think you deserve that type of recognition because you are awesome at what you do. You're among the best, which is why you're here. But when we know we're good, right, when we focus on what we've already achieved or what we're presently capable of, we might not see the next challenge that flies at us from a different direction, and suddenly you react. You turn around, you find there's another one, there's maybe one after that, multiple challenges all at once. And in the midst of this chaos and craziness where you're literally racing around in all these different directions, how can you or I experience anything like balance? Balance. Now, you've been told that's the goal, to achieve balance, right? To achieve balance in your life. We're all longing for it. We've been sold this idea that if you work long enough or hard enough or smart enough, that you can eventually arrive at this future moment where the complexity of your world simplifies. Everything evens out and makes a lot more sense. And yet you are not balanced. You are off balance every single day, right? In fact, that's the nature of your job, is to be ahead of the curve, to be sort of leaning into the uncertainty, to be anticipating what is to come so that you can stay one step ahead. So that challenge forces you to invest yourself into a lot of time and a lot of meaningful effort. And in that moment, there are other things out of your view, and then you recognize that and you're off balance in a new direction. So we're being pulled by the demands for your time and energy and your action, and we're longing for this future moment where it all evens out. I'm here to tell you that life balance is a concept that it's intriguing, it's desirable, it's also completely unrealistic. You and I will never achieve perfect balance, and even if you could, it would not be sustainable, nor all that interesting, because off balance is the reality, and that's a good thing. You must be off balance in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to love others, in order to serve your team and your customers, in order to improve yourself in any meaningful way, whether it's physically or professionally or spiritually. We need to be off balance, not biased toward everything, but biased toward what matters most, right? I thought about this and how I could illustrate it for you. The idea that, hey, look, balancing is what we do. We're engaged in the process of balancing every single day. It's making adjustments, but balance is never the goal. Let me show you. I saw this lectern up here, and this ought to be kind of interesting. I'm not sure how it's going to work out, so pay attention, guys. You should see it from up here. But look, I'm not balanced. I'm balancing. I am constantly making adjustments, right? I'm working extremely hard. And after all this work, after all this effort, you know what? I haven't really gone anywhere, have I? Right back where I was, just a little more exhausted. You see, the foundations where we find ourselves, folks, they're changing all the time. They're transforming, they're shifting. What I know is there's two types of people. Those who say out of uncertainty, what do I need to do to restrict myself, to stay safe? To keep what I know or what I have. And others who say out of uncertainty, there's a huge opportunity if you can see it. If you can have the right vision and focus, and then if you can capitalize on it, if you could take action and lean into the uncertainty, going off balance on purpose, which has two meanings, doesn't it? It's on purpose, it's intentional, it's your choice. You're setting the direction, but you're bringing that sense of mission and purpose and meaning to what you do, which will help you to guide you through those challenges. Because when you focus on the reasons why you do what you do, the challenges simplify. The choices become much more clear, and the success becomes so much more rewarding. This will surprise you, but when I first learned to juggle when I was 11 years old, I was what they called a hyperactive kid. That's true. And now I'm a hyperactive 45-year-old, in case you're wondering. People often ask me, Dan, what are you going to do when you're 60? You won't still be doing backflips, will you? To which I always respond, of course, they're just going to be much more impressive. Don't you think? And I believe that, and I'm working toward that. But when I was 11, I needed some direction in my life. And I'm from Chicago. This is my hometown. I actually grew up on the southwest side. My mom's an artist, and she was showing her artwork at this magical place called the King Richard's Renaissance Fair. It's up north, just over the border into Wisconsin. And right now, it's actually called the Bristol Fair these days because Bristol is the city where it resides. And if you can imagine, at 11, having all summer to explore a magical world of 16th century England with the king and the queen and their knights jousting on horseback and great food and entertainers, it was incredible. There was a juggler there, and I saw his show one day 6 times in a row. He noticed, and he called me over after the last show of the day, and he said, "Kid, you've been here all day. Would you like to learn?" Sometimes we find purpose in our lives when others take an interest in us. And I remember, I didn't necessarily know that I wanted to learn, but the fact that he said, "Can I help you? Would you like to do this?" That made all the difference, and suddenly it was my obsession. And maybe you're in this field because of someone along the way, if you think back, who said, "I think you'd be great at this. I think you'd be awesome. I see the way your mind works. I see how detail-oriented you are. You have a vision of the future. You're able to see the complexity of situations and simplify them down to their necessary steps. You'd be great at what you do." It made you want to succeed. It made you want to own that right to be successful. And so I put in the time and I put in the work, and it wasn't easy, but I remember it. And I remember that moment when it finally clicked in and I could keep it going with 3 balls. And you know what? It felt amazing. And almost immediately when I got it right, a new question flew into my mind. What do you think it was? Of course, how do I do 4? And I thought I was ready right then. So I got the 4th ball and I tried it. And I tried it the same way I knew how to do 3. Did that work? No, the balls hit each other. They bounced all over the floor. I was frustrated. I went back to my teacher and I said, "I don't get this. What's going on?" And he watched me and he said, "Dan, stop and listen. When you add the 4th ball, you need to learn a new pattern. A new pattern, a new process." The pattern is the term that jugglers use to refer to the relationship between all the different objectives that are presently in motion. Right? These are the same as your processes, your logistics that have to happen in order to get a process underway, right? And what Mike showed me is he said, look, when you add the fourth ball, it changes everything. Similarly, we form patterns throughout our whole life of thinking, of action, of how we interact with others, of how you do your job. And we find a way that works. We find something that allows us to be successful at a moment. And because it does, and it helps us through that uncomfortable moment of uncertainty, we almost immediately begin to defend that process or that pattern against outside change. It's your reality. It's your truth. But here's the thing. If you want to transcend your current level of ability, you must be willing to transcend your current patterns. The way you think now, the way you operate, what you do presently. Mike showed me this. He said, look, with 3 balls, they cross your body like this. They're aiming toward opposite targets above the hands. Right? You see that? And that's the same with any odd number. With even numbers, you hold it a little longer. So now it's circling back to the same side. It's actually 2 on that side and also 2 on this side. It sort of looks like they're crossing, but they're really not. See? Unless you're doing some sort of variations or fancy tricks. But the basic patterns stay on the same side. And when he showed me that, just like you, I went, oh, that's good information. And now I knew. I'd been to Chicago. I'd been to the breakout sessions. I got what I needed to know. And now I went home to the challenge, and I tried it again. And this time, it still didn't work. No, because I hadn't made it my own. I hadn't practiced enough to get it right. I had not dropped enough and picked up the drops and earned the right to be successful. Do you learn more in your life from catching or from dropping? Without a question. The things that work well on the first try teach us very little about who we are or what we value or even really what worked, because you might have got lucky. But it's the drops that cause you to question, what happened? What do I need to do to prevent that from happening again? And in your line of work, that's exactly what we do, is we identify the points that are not working, and we solve those. We work on those drops, right? But here's the funny thing, is I continue to practice and work through the struggle, and the struggle is not optional. It's necessary. No matter how much you know, you need to struggle a little bit to get there. But as I was working through it, I started to notice something unexpected. My 3-ball juggling was getting really, really good. And the truth is, I never really got the hang of 4 until I tried 5. You got it. If you think what you're doing now is difficult, guess what? It's time to try something harder. And once you do, the level you were at suddenly simplifies and becomes clear. And you allow yourself a greater degree of mastery of what you once thought was difficult. That's how we learn. We don't master one level completely, learn all there is to know, and then decide, now we're ready to move on. No, you have kids, and then you figure that out later, right? Or not. You take the job, and you show up to work, and you say, what is it we're going to do exactly? I don't know. I want to figure this out. You stretch into the uncertainty, and then the uncertainty stretches you. Now, 5 balls goes back to a crossing pattern. So it's actually, instead of having 1 in the air, you have 3 in the air at all times. Looks like this. All right? But you guys want to know the secret to juggling? Do you want to know the secret to what it takes to be an effective juggler so that you can manage the complexity of your jobs and your lives more effectively? Would you like to know? Okay, it's not every day a juggler is going to share the secret, so pay attention. Here's what it is. When it appears as though what you and I are doing, my friends, is many different things, all together, all at the same time, when we are at our best, what we're actually doing is just one thing at a time, really, really fast. I can tell that's not what you expected. And you're right. It's totally true. We do not really multitask. You know, what jugglers realize and what neuroscientists prove without any doubt is that human beings do not multitask. You might think you do, but mapping the brains of human beings that are engaged in that attempt, in that trial, what they find is what we really do is called the quick switch. The quick switch. And that's it's a neuroscientific shorthand for an expression that describes how one area of your brain fires up to engage a thought, engage a project, engage a challenge. And then something else comes to get your attention. And in order for you to engage in that one, this one has to shut down first. That one fires up, and this happens in milliseconds, going back and forth between one idea and the next, shifting, transforming. Now, we can learn certain skills so well that we can relegate them to subconscious routines. We can do them without thinking, right? But when it comes to your conscious thought, to your input, your decision making, bringing your best efforts to the table every single day, it's strictly a one at a time proposition. And every time you switch, you create that opportunity for a distraction or for a mistake, right? And this is important because what jugglers also know is that no matter how much is going on, whether it's 3, 5, 7 objects, or the complexity of your life, there's space between the throws and the catches. And when we take our throws a little bit higher, we begin to see what that space looks like, and it slows down for us. So there's space between your throws and catches, your thoughts and your actions, what you were doing and what you are doing next. And it's in those spaces that we have an opportunity to reclaim control of our accelerated lives. Ironically, you don't get better, you don't get more control by speeding up, because life speeds up with you. It's about slowing down just a beat to identify the spaces, those moments where you can refocus on your next target. You can recommit to your purpose and the reason why you do what you do, and you can take action. Because it's not only about doing one thing at a time quickly. There's a relationship between the pace and the precision. It's about doing one thing at a time, extremely fast, and extremely well. And the only way you get to both of those is by capitalizing on the spaces. So here's what I want you to do. Look up here and see the 5 spheres in the air. And what I want to ask you is, can you see the pattern? Can you see it? Some of you? A few of you? Anybody? No, that's not good enough. No. Not good enough. So this is something I want all of you to understand. And so we're going to implement some new technology, which you know always helps the situation, right? And this will help make this idea far more clear for you. I think we're ready, gentlemen. Lights, please. Thank you, Tom. All right. Ooh, this is going to be good. Voila. And now, can you see the pattern? Some say it looks like the wings of a butterfly. I prefer to see an infinity sign. Watch one ball, one sphere, as it travels back and forth in the loop that it creates, or you can blink your eyes really, really fast and you see what that looks like. Yeah, that's the pattern, right? And so I'm looking up here and I'm envisioning that pattern, and then I can see how everything else fits together. I need to keep looking up so that I can see the pattern, not looking at my hands. And of course, the patterns throughout our lives will constantly change, will transform, right? But it's up to you to take them to higher levels. Lights, please, bring them up. Yeah? Now, why did I show you that? Because it's a great visual illustration. This is what we're into here right now, folks. This is experiential learning. And as you're focusing on the processes at work and how they interact with people and with technology, I want to engage you in a different conversation about the idea of balance and about the pattern that works in your life. If we can roll that video, guys. So I want you to direct your attention to the screens. And this will help you, whether it is something you apply to yourself or whether you think about this in the context of how you build teams or how you deliver value even to your customers. So what are the 5 spheres, the 5 spheres at work in your life? Well, here they are. There's your work, your relationships, your health, spiritual growth, and your personal interests, the things you just love to do. Okay, first there's your work. This sphere here, right? It's hard to read a little bit, but you can see it. You take the spheres to higher and higher levels. How can we be more effective? We're off balance in that direction right now. Talking about how you can improve your efforts. You can learn the latest technologies. You can focus on higher targets and deliver greater results for your teams and your customers. And a typical conversation about balance says, well, that takes a lot of time. And how do you reconcile all of that effort with your relationships, your family, your friends, the people you care about, the people you care for? And most balance books will say, look, you got to compartmentalize your life, protect your time in each area so that they don't interfere with each other and they don't intersect with each other, which is ridiculous because they're always intersecting where it matters the most in your thinking, your decisions. Plus, there's more spheres like your health, right? Are you getting adequate rest? Are you bringing your A game every day because you have energy? Are you taking care of yourself so that you're not just successful now or tomorrow, but 5 and 10 years from now? Do you have longevity built into your plan? right? So health-related goals, how you rest, how you exercise, vitally important. I mentioned spiritual growth, which I know means different things to all of us depending on our personal beliefs. To some, this is practicing your faith. Others, it's about getting involved, like you see in the middle, in your community and doing something that has to do with some volunteerism, some good works, right? But if we're going to pursue purpose, it's about looking outside of ourselves and say, is there a higher mission, a higher purpose behind what we do? You can see that there's still room in the pattern for one more sphere, and that's your personal interests, the things you love, the things that make you unique, the things you loved as a child, right? And maybe lost touch with. Now, again, we usually relegate these items to the bottom of the list, thinking that we'll eventually get to them. I believe we need to incorporate them along the way so that they can help fuel the rest of your life and bring about a greater joy in the experience. Here's what it looks like, again, if we blend the pattern together. There's this infinity sign. It's important because to me it means this. You know what? You're never done. You're never done learning. You never reach your full potential because you have an infinite potential to learn, to love, to create, to grow in any one of these areas, right? But if you freeze frame your life, if you stop it at any one moment like this, it's not going to look balanced because there's some things in your hand you're dealing with right then at that moment that are taking your time and other things that are totally out of your reach at that moment. And yet they're all still connected. These spheres are all connected to you because they're yours, and more importantly, they are connected to one another. Check this out. If we were to zoom in at two of them, this is work and relationships here. And if we were to draw a line, I call that a lifeline, and connect those two spheres, that line implies this question: how are they connected? Okay, obviously you work to take care of your family, you go back to your family, you get love and energy and juice, and you bring that back into your job, but there's more to it, right? Because there are times when it's stretched to the limit, when the demands in one area are compromising your effectiveness in some other area as well. And yet it's all still connected. See, in my job, I travel a lot. It's part of my life. Yet I've been married for 21 years. We have two great kids, a 15-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter. And as I was explaining to the table earlier, part of what we do to strengthen that lifeline from their earliest memories is we talk about why I do what I do. We bring them with me on the road. In fact, to this day, I bring my kids, I take them out of school or during spring breaks or whatever. I bring them on trips, extend my trips, show them great cities. That way, and I use them on stage. I literally will do performances with my kids on stage. That way they're really, truly experiencing it, and all their travel, clothing, and food becomes tax deductible, which is awesome. How can you strengthen your lifelines? And not just that one, but work and health, right? Does your work support your desire to be healthy, or does it challenge it in some way? And if so, what are you going to do about that? Because that's not sustainable. In the context of doing your job, you get a chance to practice your spiritual beliefs and to do great things for your community. Are you strengthening that line? Are you working in an area that interests you? Are you bringing your personal interests into your corporate conversations? Are we in relationships that support our desires in life to grow, to become healthier, to grow spiritually? And do you share your personal interests and learn the interests of your family and friends so that you can support them in that endeavor? You see, it's all connected. So if we flip it, and instead of looking at how do we balance everything, we say, how do we connect it? How do we integrate what matters most and strengthen these lifelines, the infrastructure of what matters most? And we can grow in a way where they support one another. They're not in conflict just because of how we design our life, but they support each other in this concept that is, multidimensional. This is what the DNA of a connected, integrated life would look like. And we're working toward that. Of course, you never reach your full potential because there's an infinite capacity to grow. But as those who understand and master processes to become more effective at your jobs, I wanted you to have this concept so that you can master the process of becoming more effective in your life and bringing greater joy and happiness along the way. Does that make sense to you? All right, good. I'm glad. Because it's not easy, but it's fun. This is why I make certain choices. Like I play drums in my church band. I'm not going to be a professional drummer, but I love it. And this is an opportunity for me to integrate a personal interest with the spiritual growth and the relationships that I've built. It's an awesome thing to do. For my exercise, people say, Dan, how do you stay in shape? I don't go to the gym very often. I do other things. Obviously, I perform, I juggle, I do 1,000 catches every day just to stay in shape. I go mountain unicycling. That's my cardio. Great workout, right? Because you're no coasting uphill and downhill. And I do it with a buddy of mine. Personal interests, health, friendship, relationships, all in one. How can you get creative and make decisions that support you in multiple areas so that you can withstand the turmoil? Because sometimes the challenges will come at you, folks, and it will be difficult. It will be decidedly complex. Oh, yeah. Ha-ha. What does this bowling ball represent to you? Don't tell me. Think about it, because it might be personal. It might be something you haven't even shared with anybody else. But what's the biggest weight in your world right now, at work or at home? And how are you going to handle it? Well, you might find that you need to dig down deep inside you and work hard, maybe even harder than you ever have before. But maybe it's not always about working harder. It could be about working smarter, getting creative, finding a new way. In other words, using your head. Or at least making it look that way, right, sir? Good job, good job, good job. Are you okay? I'm okay. You can breathe now. It's okay. Not a real bowling ball, folks, but it makes a real point. The challenges we perceive as the most threatening, those future challenges that you hold out there and you go, my goodness, how am I going to deal with that? When they get here, they're always going to be different in some way. And a lot of times, they're not as daunting or dangerous as we first predict. Because from this moment, from your present moment, as you look to the future, those challenges are amplified, aren't they? They're magnified by your fear, your uncertainty. What you might find is when they get here, you know what? You've been working toward that direction all along. What changes is the way you apply yourself, the way you learn, and finding the right mentor. So, in order to illustrate this for you, because really it's not about me and my skills, these are metaphors for your skills and how you can learn under pressure. So for that, I'm going to need a partner. I need someone from this audience to help me on stage in a real-time scenario to build partnership. Right? We're going to illustrate how you can coach others, how you can help work with others to get the best results, but also how you personally can get the best results from yourself. And as I move into the audience and try to feel out who this person might be, no one's jumping to mind immediately, right? Nobody's raising their hand and saying, pick me, pick me. Hold on a second. She's picking you. This woman right here, she's definitely identified you, and I can see why. She's doing this, guys. She's pointing to, she's going, all right, this is the guy. He looks totally strong, totally capable. You'd be awesome, sir. But let's ask the audience, how many of you think we ought to pick the woman who just tried to volunteer her friend?
Well, that backfired.
Yes, you know what? It did backfire, but I promise you, you're going to be a hero when this is all done. What's your name?
Dana.
Dana, and I'm Dan. That's cool. Have we met before?
No.
No, she's not a plant in my audience. So let me ask you, Dana, do you know how to juggle?
No.
Really? Do you think it'd be possible for you to learn to juggle on stage with me under pressure in just a few minutes?
Yes.
She says yes. I don't know if I believe that she says yes. So let me change the question a little bit. What if I work with you where you're already strong and you're already confident? I'm going to build on your strength. I'm going to do at least half the work on my side, so we're totally in this together. Do you think we can be a little bit successful and have some fun?
I'll give it my best shot.
She'll give it her best. Hey, what can we ask for any more than that? Give her some encouragement as Dana comes on stage. Come on up, Dana. Awesome. Now, if you would, you could take the stairs here. No need to take the shortcut. Notice what I asked her. Did she think it was possible? Because you can't act in a manner inconsistent with what you think or what you believe. If you're trying to learn to juggle while you're telling yourself you can't do it, you won't be able to. But she gave me that window of possibility, which is awesome. So, Dana, stay right there. I brought with me some objects which you're going to love. These are so great for learning because they're what we call, in the world of juggling, they're called juggling scarves. See this? They fall slowly. It's like you could throw in there, and take your time. They sort of stay there till you need them, then you pull them back down. Throw it up, and then pull it down. In that sense, it's sort of like cloud-based solutions. It's also like learning in slow motion, Dana, which is why we are not using scarves. That would not be realistic, right? When is the last time you got to learn something important in slow motion? Right? So to make this more like your real life and your job, here's what we're going to do. Can you relate, folks? And you're not backing off at all. I love that. But Dana, I want you to look at these. You can see the blades. These are totally sharp. They are real. You can see the grinder marks. I actually keep these sharp with a grinder to hold myself accountable. I know it's sick, but it's just something that I do. There is no way that I would ask you to juggle these with me this early in our relationship, right?
It's smart.
That's smart. But what I am doing is purposeful, because once I show her the extreme of what may one day be possible, she will be much more open to the idea that today we're using these. Here, hold one for me. Good. You're going to be great. Are you right-handed or are you left-handed?
Right.
She's right-handed. Good. Slide over to my right side. Now, all her life, she's used her right hand for most challenges. I want to build on her strength. Just as when you're working with partners, it's important to understand what are you great at, where you may need a third-party partner who really specializes in a specific area or solution or a transportation role or whatever it might be, so that you can coordinate on strengths. You can put your left hand behind your back, because I'm going to be your left hand, right? So we're totally in this together. Now hold your hand out. Remember what I said about focus, Dana? I want you to look not at your hand, but look up here, and there's an imaginary spot. So we're not going to look at the lights. We're going to look up, and there's a spot right about there. That's my target. And as you look up in that direction, can you see the spot?
Sure.
Cool. She's got vision. Look up. I make the throw. You look at it, and then your hand catches it. Nice. Now notice she didn't even look down. Most people will look down and glance at their hand. It's just a habit. We do that, but you're past that now. You're way ahead of the game. To throw it back to me, however, I want you to shift your focus over to the other side, and then just envision a throw where you kind of go down and up, a little scoop of your hand. You're going to push it up in the air, and I'll catch it on my side. Ready? Scoop and throw and catch. Nice. Awesome. Went out a little far, a little sideways rather than up. And that illustrates how it's about implementation, right? She understands it, but until she does it, she doesn't have the result. Now we can make an adjustment. And next time, just push your hand a little bit more up in the air. There you go. And do it again. And awesome. She's much more adept at it right away. Back and forth. Good. And here, in just a matter of moments, notice we developed a lot of, look, she's even getting fancy now, right? Don't reach up for it, right? I want you to leave your hand down low. And the reason is we need the what? We need the time. We need the space, right? So we're going to wait for it because it's going to get more complex. So right here, we're just trying to feel out what that space looks like, right? And we're going down and up from the middle and back and forth. And notice, yeah, we're starting to develop a lot more confidence. And having a little fun, a rhythm of working together. And also notice this, one ball by itself is not that entertaining, is it? Except for us, Dana.
Just to me, yeah.
Yeah, me too. But it's critical. The accuracy of this first throw is incredibly important, especially when we add the other elements. Just as when you develop processes and procedures and supply chains and inventory management programs, you got to start with the foundation and the simplicity of that first throw. Because when you get that right, then you can build on top of it. Now, ultimately, I would like to juggle all three balls in flow with you. This is an example of what I like to call horizontal integration. Right? How will we know we've been successful? How many catches do you think we should make to say, yes, we did it? Got three balls, so give me a number.
One.
3 balls. So you mean one with each one? Like one
with
pattern?
each one.
Right, totally. So that would be a complete pattern. That would be 3 throws and 3 catches. Great. But Dana, what if we did just one more catch with each ball? That's a total of 6. 2 rotations of the pattern. That way you'll do 3, I'll do 3. We'll feel the rhythm of working together. Would you go to 6 with me?
That's right.
All right, good. You see how I just upsold her on her own goal? I met her where she was, and I validated her thinking because that's her truth. But then I explained how going a little bit further how it would have great rewards, and it really will. Yet we're still leaving out one important element, Dana, because all of your challenges, folks, I know, have that deadline, right? That time limit, that sense of urgency, that drop-dead date where you've got to get it done. Well, we're going to give you that same sense of urgency with a time limit of 2 minutes and 46 seconds, the length of this piece of music, which will help us to feel the rhythm. Hit it, Mike. Deep breath. All right. Looking up. And catch. Yeah. Back to you and back to me. Looking good. And how are my throws coming in? Pretty good? All right. Me too. We need to understand that we have the right targets. We need to provide each other some feedback Back to you, and back to me, a little bit higher. Perfect. And one more time, and catch this one, and stop. All right, give her a little love, people. That's awesome. All right, that's enough. We're on a deadline here. Now, the next step is to begin to sequence our throws together. So this time, you'll start first, Dana. I'll throw underneath yours. Go, throw, and throw, catch, and catch. Good, one more time. Throw, throw, catch, catch. Make sure it goes up. Go ahead, one more time. Throw, throw, nice. See, we can slow it down. This time, I'll start first. You throw underneath mine. So look up. Here comes mine. Ready? 1, 2, catch, catch. All right, don't worry about that. That was a great throw. Most people don't get that the first time, because if I start, she's now throwing while catching. It becomes that quick switch we were talking about earlier. But don't think about that. It'll totally confuse you. Instead, let's just focus on rhythm. One time you start first, go. Throw, throw, and stop. I'll start, look up. Throw, throw, catch, catch. There you go. Just make sure you get a good look at it. Your hand will follow naturally. One more time, you start, go. Throw, throw, and stop. I'll start. Throw, throw, catch, catch. You got it. Give her some love. All right. Now, when I start, you make sure you throw yours a little bit higher. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2. Good. Good. That gives us the time, the space. Now, if you're practicing in your mind, and I can tell some of you are because your heads are going back and forth like this. Start with the hand that has the 2. Otherwise, Dana starts, and we're done. They're all on my side. But if I start, I will throw, then you will throw, and now there's a new object or a new objective in my hand. What should I do? This is a great rule for life, folks, and for management. If the ball's in your hand, throw it. In other words, take action when you have that opportunity. When you have the thought that I need to move this forward, or that I need to recontact that person in my life, or whatever it might be, if you can't take action at that moment, make a plan to do so at a future moment. Don't let the thought slip. Take action. If the ball's in your hand, throw it, all right? I'm going to start, you're going to start, and then we're just going to keep going. We're going for 6 catches. Put your left hand behind your back, and let's do this thing. You can build the music. Ready? 1, 2, great. A little bit higher. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now we're almost there. This time we're just going to keep going. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. My partner, Dana! Woo! That was amazing. She is something else. Do you want to be done, or do you want to do it again? No, I mean, we reached our goal. You want to do it one more time just for fun? Let's do it one more time. Pressure's off. This is just us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Man, oh man, this woman is amazing. That was awesome. All right, you can fade that out for us, guys. Now, Dana, did you see that moment where it clicked in? It was like, we got it. We understood the process. We were working together. We were finding the rhythm. In order to make this her own skill, though, what does she need to do next? What do you need to do? You need to go solo, right? You need to challenge yourself. Use your other hand. Work through the difficulty. Well, we are not going to do that at this moment. However, as your coach and as your mentor, I want to prepare you for that moment. Here's your own set of juggling balls. Here's a DVD that'll take you through the whole process in the privacy of your own home, and a copy of my book, Off Balance on Purpose, because you were definitely that today. And I'd love to sign that for you afterward. You're amazing. Let's hear it for Dana. You know, I love bringing someone on stage because when you do, you really invite the whole audience on stage. Did you feel that? Because Dana, you were up here, but everyone in the room was empathizing with your situation. Most of them were thinking the same thing. Thank God he didn't pick me. But you did so great. And I bet you identified with her challenge of being asked to do something you've never done before, under pressure, on a time limit, under the bright lights. You know why? Because that's the nature of your job. But I bet you also identified with me in my role as the coach, as the mentor, trying to work with someone to understand her beliefs, her strengths, her capabilities, and then to take her through the process. You know, to really understand the process and how to teach that, but also how she needed to have it taught to her, to be able to say the right thing at the right moment, to encourage her through the difficulties and the drops, which, look, were inevitable. We had to make those drops in order to be successful, right? The point is you do both parts every single day. But imagine if I would have invited Dana up here, selected her from the audience against her will, put her in this situation, and then it didn't go so well. What if I just put her up there and it was just a disaster? She couldn't catch anything. And even worse, I blamed those results. I said, you know what? Obviously, this isn't for you, Dana. Thanks for trying. What would my relationship be like right now with the rest of you? Right? Not so good. You'd be ready for me to hit the door. Of course, I would never do that. I would never bring someone on stage into this vulnerable space without knowing that you are going to be the hero. But the point is, the way you treat one person is the way you treat everyone. There are no isolated encounters. So as we're coaching and mentoring and working with people, who have all a different perspective, different strengths, different views on what it takes to be successful, we need to treat them with that dignity and congruent with our values. We go through this process. The first time I ever tried to perform on stage, I was petrified. I was like, I don't want to do this, because I was practicing and I was trying to get it right, trying to get it perfect before I could take the stage. And I called my mentor, the one who had booked me for the show, and I said, get me out of it. And he said, Dan, no, you've made the commitment, you're going to do this. But understand, every time you do a show, you really do 3 shows. I said, what? He said, yeah. There's the one you plan, then there's the one you do, then there's the one you should have done that you think about in the car on the way home. Can you relate? Every time you do a show, 3 shows. Every time you show up for work, every time you implement a new process, every time you work with a new vendor, every time you partner up to solve a problem, there's the way you plan it, then what actually happens, and then what you should have done. And all 3 phases are valuable. In fact, that 3rd show is what will make or break your success. Because without a plan, we have no right to be successful. We're doing our daily disciplines. We're learning about the industry. We're staying current on technology. We're learning about what our competitors are doing and how to stay one step ahead. You're leaning forward, right? Surfing the crest of that wave of change, off balance, because you have to be. That's the nature of your job. But then when you show up and you implement whatever you chose and however you plan to organize this next effort, you just surrender to the moment. The planning's, it's so beneficial, but it's in the past. You have to engage what's really happening to identify new opportunities along the way. Otherwise, you're not performing at your best. You're just, running through the plan. And then afterward, we're always going to learn and grow and change. And sometimes that 3rd show can be painful. But again, that's where we get our greatest lessons. And that process of infinite potential, of accelerated learning, right? If you intentionally try to connect what matters and to learn from every experience, you can learn more quickly. And you can even take on challenges that might previously have made you uncomfortable, or maybe made you uncomfortable, right? These are real by now. They have real consequences. They have very real effects. So what I'm telling you is, look, I have just upped my commitment. Up yours. No, up your commitment. When you take on a risk or a project that seems risky to you, that gets you a little bit more uncomfortable, you need to get very, very specific about what the goal really is. Here, the goal isn't just to make a catch, but it is more specifically catch the handle. And they're all different. This one has a small handle. This one has a long blade, so I need to reach down to the bottom of the handle in order to catch that one. If I reach up too high, I'll cut myself right there. And this one is so top heavy, the handle's very light. When I throw it up and let go, it actually travels backward. Watch. If I throw it straight up in the air, the handle comes back toward my face. So what I have to do with every throw of the axe is to intentionally push it forward just a little bit. It's uncomfortable. The point is, you need to handle each challenge specifically, uniquely, toward a new target, and with the pace and precision that's required, because there's space between the throws and catches. In fact, the moment I let go, the moment I throw one of these things, it's out of my hand, but it's also out of my what? Yeah, it's out of my control. I need to let go, right? You understand this. When I let go, when I've taken action toward the target, and it's out of my hands, I need to let it go so I can handle the next one with equal precision and a different plan toward the other target. In fact, if you feel overwhelmed in your life and on your job, I believe that stems from the inability to disengage from the things that are out of your hands. In other words, you must let go in order to get a grip. Make sense? Right. So, you know what? I think we need to take this one step higher. And for that, I need another partner. This time I'd like to pick a gentleman from the audience, a man who is brave, a man who's bold and willing to take action and step up here. Sir, would you come up? She's pointing at you. He's trying to pass the buck, right? Would you just come on up? You'd be great. Let's give him a little encouragement. There you go. All right. Fantastic. Now, we're not going to ask you to juggle today. No worries. Do you know how? You never. You do not know how. Joe, that's all right. I'm Dan. Nice to meet you, Joe. Thanks for being up here. I promise you you're going to have a good experience and a copy of the book when you are done as well. Thank you for being here. Sure. Now, I mentioned I'm not going to ask you to juggle. I do have something else in mind, all right, which will help us to take this performance to a whole new level. You're going to love this. Ready?
I got stars in my head from bike injuries.
No, really? You're a biker? No, you don't have to ride this. It's okay. No, you're on my shoulders. So get a running leap. I gotcha. Totally kidding, Joe. Totally kidding.
I'd rather try this.
Oh, yeah? You could do that if you want to. In fact, what I was thinking is if you and I actually took this performance down to the level of the floor, that might be even a little bit better. Follow me as we move to the stage. Sometimes in life, as you're moving through a new challenge, you need to find somebody who can explain it to you in detail, as I did a little bit earlier with my juggling partner. But other times we just need that person to be there for us, to hold us accountable, someone we could lean on. So Joe, that's going to be you. Just stand right here and facing the audience. I'm going to use your shoulder just for some support. So again, we talked about accountability. What are you going to do as a result of this meeting? How will this meeting be valuable to you moving forward? And before you leave, you need to identify your partners and explain to them what you plan to do differently, right? Understand it from them as well so that you can hold each other accountable. You can be there. And you can take that next leap to that next level. Moving higher. All right, you're doing great. Now, when I let go, Joe, you're going to move out of the way. Right or left, I don't care. Just
I'm moving right.
Just be decisive. All right? And then go. Circle back up on stage for me. I will be there in just a moment. All right. So I'm going to move into the audience now. How you guys doing over here? All right. Oh, let's watch the speakers over here. In fact, maybe I could dive to the back. If I move back this way, watch your chairs, folks. Yeah, pull them on in. That's all right. Nobody be a hero. That's good. High five, sir. Oh, hello, high five. There you go. Oh, well, all right. And ma'am, how are you enjoying the cheap seats back here? Nice to see you. Very good. When I first learned how to ride one of these suckers, a 6-foot unicycle, I learned a lot about balance extremely quickly. First of all, I tried it like this. I thought I would be closer to the ground, just to be careful. And I'm sorry about the view behind me, but what I realized, if I looked at the ground, if I focused there, where did I go? I went down. I went to the ground, and I went there very, very quickly. We are drawn toward where we focus. So if you're looking at the negative outcomes in life or the experiences that went awry, and that's where your focus is, you know what? You're going to be drawn there. The only way to feel a sense of balance or control, the only way to feel control in an off-balance environment is to elevate your vision, to be willing to look farther than others can in the midst of chaos, which again, let's face it, that's what you do for a living. So if I want to look and get back to my buddy Joe, I want to get back across this room, around those speakers, around those chairs, around those people at the end, I have to have the plan. And then in order to move through that plan, you tell me what's the first action that I actually take. What did I do to take action? Yes, you lean forward, right, Joe? In fact, what you do on a 6-foot unicycle is you lean forward and you start falling toward your face. And then you chase your body with the unicycle so that hopefully you don't get to your face. This is scary. But unless you feel that excitement of leaning into the uncertainty, of falling a little bit, of moving through the discomfort, you're not going to be going forward. In fact, if I'm apprehensive about trying something new, I may be sliding backwards and not even know it. Or maybe I'll just stay where I am because I'm already good, I'm already successful. I don't want to get too good too quickly. They couldn't handle me out there. This is all right. This is called idling. And look what I'm really doing. I'm going forward then backward to stop myself, right? Forward, then backward. Forward, and then stopping my progress intentionally so that I don't move into uncertainty. Folks, if you limit yourself to what's comfortable, you deny yourself what's possible. And so we need to identify what we want, initiate the changes, and purposely, intentionally engage that discomfort in order to move through it, to direct your efforts in exciting directions for you and your partners. All right, Joe. One more time, right there. All right. And this time, as I jump to the top, I want you to do one more thing for me. Grab those 3 knives. Yeah, ooh is right. And you're going to come a little bit closer. That's good right there. And Joe will be throwing me the knives. But first, we're going to communicate. So pay attention. Joe, are you right-handed or are you left-handed?
Yes.
Okay, good. Which one?
I'm left.
You're more comfortable with your left hand. All right, then let's use your left hand. Let's not start with that one, though. If you would grab the machete first, that's the area to go. And grab, you can pick them all up. Pick all 3 up together, just so you have them. Okay, good. Second thing, I'd rather you didn't flip that to me, but rather just hold it vertically. Good. And you're going to go down and push it through the air. There you go, like a flat throw, straight across from your left hand, right over here, to my right hand. Right there. I'll say go. Or whenever you want, that's cool. All right, now let's go with let's do the executioner acts next. I think you're ready. Same thing, right here, down and up, and go. Throw it. Okay, good, Joe. Good, good. Now this one's a little heavier, so I need to give it a little bit more effort. Not so much at the center of my body, but a little off to the side. You ready? Yep. And go. Got it. Now catch this one. Good throws, good throws. One more thing. Stand forward, kind of in the center of the stage. Face the audience. Hands on your hips. Feet a little further apart. Yeah, even more. Take a nice wide stance. That's really important, Joe. That way I can get the wheel kind of like right there. Right in between. Now, whatever you do, buddy, keep looking up. I don't think so. Come on, folks. No. We're not going to do that, Joe. That would be ridiculous. Slide over. You can hang out at the lectern. I'll be there in just a minute. But let me pay this off, because this kind of summarizes everything we talked about. If what I'm saying is true, the same skills that brought me to this moment should enable me to pull this off, even though it's an unfamiliar stage, a little uneven. It's an off-balance platform in front of a new audience with 3 consequential challenges that are all unique. If I can manage my thinking, my actions should follow. So it's about keeping the calm focus under pressure, finding the spaces between the throws and catches, handling one thing at a time. And for those of you who are asking, well, wait a second, you're doing 2 things at a time because you're unicycling. Remember what I said earlier. We can learn some skills so well, we can relegate them to subconscious routines. In this case, what I'm doing is I'm focusing on, I just run this unicycle thing in the background because I've learned it so well, so that I can focus on each throw. I can integrate that together. And yet nothing happens unless I first let go. That starts the whole process. So what is it maybe you need to let go of? At the end of this event, as you look forward and you say, how are you going to become better? What do you need to let go of? Maybe it's some fear, some doubt, an old process. Maybe it's the desire to be perfect or the need to do it all on your own. Instead, you need a great partner like Joe. Because together, when we look up, we go off balance, on purpose, for the right reasons. We can make extraordinary things happen. Yeah! Joe! Thank you, my brother.
Great job.
Oh, yeah. Let me sign that for you afterward.
Thanks.
Keep it going for Joe, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you pushing me beyond my limits today, and I want to be that guy for you as well. Maybe in something I said today or even moving forward, let me know how I could be of help to you. Because you never know who's in your audience, And I'm going to close with a quick story about how true that is. It was the spring of 1994. By then, I'd actually moved to Georgia. I live in the Atlanta area now. My family moved south in 1984. So I finished my high school career there. I went to the University of Georgia, studying business, paying for my college through entertainment, and running my own business. At the same time, I'd be listening to motivational speakers on tapes in my car, going back and forth, not because I ever thought I would do that thing, but because I loved it, because I learned from it. It was part of my continuous improvement. And so afterwards, I was thinking about, where do I want to go with my career? What's the next move? I began about that time in 94 to integrate a message, a speech, into my presentation. And of course, it's been a long journey from there to what you see today, and writing a couple books and deepening my content and truly, owning the message, which is really the most important thing to me. But in 94, I was doing a show at a place called Callaway Gardens. I was hired to entertain the springtime crowds, and when I finished, everyone walked away except one man. An older gentleman walked up to me, and he asked me, he was remarking on my show, and he was asking me questions, and then he shared that he was once a juggler. He had taught himself how to juggle, and even decided he wanted to move from the balls to clubs when he was a younger man. This man's name was Merc Smith. I'll never forget that. Interesting name, Merc Smith. And now in 1941, about the time Merc decided he wanted to juggle clubs, he was sent to war. And during World War II, he was stationed in England, Africa, and then Italy. And it was there that his troop was visited by a USO tour, a group of entertainers, similar to the trip that I went on so many years later to the Middle East. And there was a juggler in Merc's show as well. And so afterward, they talked. And hearing that Merc wanted to learn clubs, that man said, you know what? I know a guy, a world-class performer, but also a furniture maker. And if you'd like, I'm happy to give you his address and his name, Harry Lind. And now I know you know who Harry is. Merc ordered 5 clubs, and they were waiting for him when he got home. He learned 3 really well. He learned 4 just a little bit. And then other things in his life became more important. And so he tells me he returned them to the original box on a shelf, and he put it in his garage where they were waiting when I met him for 49 years. And he said to me, I still have them. I always thought maybe one day I'd run into a juggler who could use them. And if you'd like, I'm more than happy to just give them to you. I was in shock. I'd just met this man, and I didn't know how I could possibly repay this generous gift. But don't worry, I accepted. I was at his house the next day, and we took down the box, and I grabbed 3, and I moved over the grass and let go. Now, they were lighter than I thought they'd be. They're hollowed out so thin that when they hit your hand, they ring with every catch. Ping, 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 almost like playing music. Right? I finished with 3, and I grabbed the 4th one, and again, they fell perfectly. I even threw them behind my back and finished still without a drop. I looked at Merc, and he looked at me, and we both looked at the 5th club. I was off balance. I was near the edge of my ability, but it was on purpose. It wasn't about me. It was about the man who believed in me and the legacy of what had come before. And so in that moment, I just sort of got out of the way, and I made it happen in what seemed like slow motion for about 12 catches. I finished. I thanked him. I brought them home. And yet I didn't know really what to do with them, so I sort of hung them there. Sort of hung them on my wall, and they were displayed like that, like a piece of history, and people could come over and they could say, hey, what's all that about? And I could tell them the story about this amazing experience, about the man that I met and what I learned and the gifts that I received from him. And yet the more I told the story, the less meaningful it seemed to be. In fact, walking by the club, as time passed, I started to notice a nagging feeling that they could be much more valuable. And I didn't get it for 2 years until I finally remembered what he said. His words were, when we met, I always thought maybe one day I'd run into a juggler who could use them. Use them. They were never intended to hang on a wall. They're designed to fly. And Merc waited almost 50 years to give them to the right guy, the right juggler. He picked me. Folks, with every gift we receive comes a responsibility to use the gift in the spirit it was intended. And so they're not on my wall. I brought them with me. And before I leave you, I want to share the gift one more time. They're right here. I brought 3 with me, actually. These are 68 years old. They're very breakable. Jugglers who used these, even when they were new, always had standing orders for replacements because when they hit a wooden stage, they crack, they shatter. I don't have that luxury. These will break, maybe today. And I'd hate that, but it would be much worse not to know what it felt like to use them or to share them or to hear this sound. My wedding ring actually helps on the other side. Listen. Yeah. But you know, the music only happens when you put them all together. And the same as it is for all of you, for your organizations, for this incredible association called WERC, you're all given gifts. Some we're born with. I believe those are God-given. Others we acquire through our lifetime, through our experience, for our education, from our drops, and from events like this one. And what I learned from WERC is that in order for your gift to appreciate in value, it's not enough to appreciate your gift, to hang it on a wall, to be proud. You need to use it like Harry did with that first club until you're tired and sore, maybe even frustrated, and you need to put it down and rest and regroup so that the next day you can pick it back up again, because that's what you're meant to do. I look forward to continuing the conversation with all of you. But for now, as we close together, let's just listen. Thank you all so much, and God bless you. Keep looking up. Yeah.